The day the sky cracketh sun hadn't risen yet when the signal came. Soft rain whispered across the roof of the outpost tower as Lieutenant Alara Voss leaned forward in her chair, staring at the old, dust-covered screen. She could feel it before she heard it. A low hum, like 1,000 voices murmuring beneath the ground. Then the lights flickered, once, twice. And the warning siren chirped to life, not loud, but urgent, like something breathing its last. ELA are a single quotes as hand moved slowly to the comms. Panel. Not fear. Not yet. Just tension. The kind that pressed behind her eyes and crawled down her spine. Central, this is Outpost 12. I have anomaly movement on grid 49. Magnitude unknown. Requesting immediate scan relay. Static. Then a voice shaking. Not from fear, from disbelief. Lieutenant Voss. It's not coming from space, it's coming up. She stood, heart pounding. Through the grimy glass of the outpost dome, she could see the sky beginning to shift. Black clouds thinned in long, dragging lines. The stars behind them didn't move, but the air in front of them did. She'd seen this before, once, in the academy. They'd shown it as a myth. Gravity fold signatures. Generated from below. The kind that came when something massive was lifting. Double quote central. Please confirm. Are you saying yes? It's from Earth, from beneath the crust, something is launching. She didn't speak. Couldn't. A fleet that size. From Earth? Humans hadn't had an armada in centuries. The last time they tried, during the Union War, their ships had been laughed at by the Galactic Corps. Humans were known for their diplomacy, their healing arts, their songs and memory trees. They were the soft ones, the ones who mourned too deeply and forgave too easily, respected, sure, but not feared. Not strong. So how? Outside, the rain stopped. Then the sky cracked open. The clouds weren't clouds anymore. They were vapor trails. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Black and gold and white, shimmering with shield resonance. The ground trembled under Ilara's boots as shockwaves rolled out in every direction. Towers groaned. Birds fled. And from the old mountains, long dormant, shapes began to rise. Ships. Massive ones. Some shaped like wings, others like blades, all carved from metals the galaxy had not seen. Since the Lost Wars, they bore no markings, no warning lights. Just silent, rising death. From the eastern cliffs, 2 children watched, their mouths open, eyes wide. Mama said humans don't have ships. The girl whispered. The boy didn't answer. He just gripped her hand tighter as the Earth roared. Far above. On the Galactic Relay Station in orbit around Triora 7, Commander Surix of the Tavalon Empire stood before the data feed. His 4 eyes blinked slowly. His second heart stuttered. In disbelief, this is impossible, he said. Earth has no known shipyards, no military bases. Their population is scattered, their alliances weak. A young analyst, quivering, spoke from behind him. Double quote sir. There's more. More screens came online. Not 1 fleet. Not 10. There were 27 armadas rising from different parts of Earth, from beneath oceans, buried in deserts, hidden in storm systems. Some had been dormant for hundreds of years. Others, newly born. None bore any planetary signatures that matched known human governments. Who authorized this? Surix shouted. Who is leading these fleets? The analyst hesitated. They have no known leader, sir, no registered admiral. Just one phrase repeating on every transmission band. What phrase? The analyst swallowed. We rise for what you cannot understand. On the ground. Ilara watched the first of the ships vanish into the upper atmosphere. She wasn't scared anymore. She was angry, not because she'd been left out, Not because she hadn't known, but because she'd spent her whole life thinking her people were helpless, gentle, always at the mercy of greater empires, stronger claws, sharper teeth. And now, something ancient had woken. Something buried and the galaxy was about to see it as the rain returned. Warm and soft like breath, Alara stood in the ruins of her outpost and whispered the only thing that came to mind. They should have left us alone. Whispers in the deep dark space around Triora 7 grew colder as the human fleets rose higher. Commander Surix hadn't moved in hours. The screens in front of him glowed with heat signatures, launch trails, magnetic fields bending in ways that broke known physics. Every sensor screamed for attention. Every officer whispered one word beneath their breath like a curse. Impossible. And yet, there it was. Data. Undeniable. 27 fleets. Earthborn. Human-built. Each one rising in silence, not towards war, but into position, like they had waited for centuries. Like someone had planned every move. What's their target? Surix demanded. Nothing, sir, his second-in-command answered, confused. They're not advancing. They're holding orbit over Earth. All units, synchronized, no threats, none, just presence. Surix clenched his jaw. Presence could be deadlier than fire. He turned his eyes to the old report still flashing. On the side screen, it was from 72 cycles ago. A galactic intelligence scan of Earth marked level yellow. Unremarkable. Underdeveloped. Low threat. Resource poor. But in the classified section, there was a note. One sentence. Easily missed. Some humans don't forget. Surix had read it years ago. Laughed. Now he was not laughing. Down on Earth, in a cave hidden beneath the Antarctic ice, a woman named Dr. Marina Halle watched an old console flicker to life. For years she had been stationed alone at Outpost Blackstar, studying tectonic shifts and ancient pulse signatures. Nothing had ever happened. Not in 12 years. Until now, when the sky cracked. The ground answered. The ice groaned as the last of the old seals unlocked. Blue light filled the cavern. The console before her pulsed gently, as if waking up from a long sleep. Her hand hovered above the interface. This isn't possible, she whispered, but deep inside, she had known it was coming. They'd told stories, among her father's people long ago, stories of sleepers. Watchers hidden beneath the world, not soldiers. Not machines, something else. Born human, but built for something more. When the console finally spoke, the voice was calm, emotionless, yet unmistakably human. Confirmation. Fleet rise achieved. Awaiting next signal. She stepped back, breathing hard. The console shifted. New lines appeared. Dr. Halle, you are one of 7. Confirm memory sync. Her mind reeled. 7? Who were the others? What memory? And then, without warning, something clicked inside her. Not a sound, not a motion. Just a feeling. A door. Swinging open deep in her soul. The memories weren't new. They were hers. Just ... Locked away. She saw the cities burning during the Union War. The hands of dying elders. The final promise sworn in whispers, never again. Then the building of the hidden fleets beneath oceans. Within mountains, masked by storms. 1,000 generations had passed the secret forward. Diorhala began to cry. Not because she was scared, but because the galaxy had forgotten who humans were. They remembered now. Meanwhile, above the planet, a diplomatic envoy from the Avari Council was approaching the first human fleet. They came in peace, or so they claimed. 3 silver ships, unarmed, light soft. On board the lead vessel, Ambassador Knox tilted his long neck toward the forward screen, where the human flagship loomed like a slumbering god. No escort, no weapons drawn, he whispered. Perhaps they will listen. He opened a channel to the human vessels above Earth. I am Ambassador Knox of the Avari Council. We come in peace and seek understanding. Why have you risen? What do you want? For long seconds, there was silence. Then the screen came alive. No face. No emblem. Just words. We have seen enough of peace offered in chains. We rise because... You thought we wouldn't. We rise because the next time you call us weak, the stars will answer differently. The ambassador stared at the message. He closed the channel with shaking claws. Prepare full retreat, he said quietly. His aide turned, confused. But ... they haven't attacked. No, the ambassador said. They didn't need to. On the ground, Elara Voss walked the empty fields near her ruined outpost. The air smelled of ash and ozone. She passed the two children again, still staring at the sky. The girl looked up at Elara with wide eyes. Are the ships ours? She asked. Elara hesitated. Then nodded. Double quotes, yes, they are. But why now? Elara knelt beside her. The weight of the moment pressed deep into her chest. Because they forgot we could fight. And we forgot we were allowed to. From the mountains, another ship rose, slow, beautiful. A giant bird made of dark light and memory. And across the galaxy, the stars began to whisper, not in fear, but in awe. The signal that made empires tremble in the silent void between worlds. Something old and unfinished stirred. Light years away from Earth, in the grand halls of the Dominion throne world, High Chancellor Celix of the Gruther Empire stood alone before a wall of star charts. His tendrils tightened around his command staff. The room smelled of fear. Play it again, he said. A holoscreen blinked, showing the same transmission the humans had sent earlier. No sound, just words. We rise for what you cannot understand. We are not your stories anymore. We. Remember, Celix turned away. The council behind him said nothing. For decades, the Gruther had considered Earth a harmless planet, filled with artists, thinkers, broken warriors clinging to songs of peace. Humans were tolerated, studied, sometimes mocked, but this was something else. The fleet patterns alone were unlike anything ever seen, perfectly balanced, no wasted motion, no command structure visible. Every ship operated like it shared one mind, and the power signatures, ancient, older than any known tech. Some even pulsed with pre-collapse codes, data lost to time and war. They should not have this, one general whispered. No one should. Celix didn't answer. Deep in his second heart, he already knew the truth. They always had. Back on Earth, deep beneath the Sahara, another awakening had begun. Commander June Orland stepped through the gates of Outpost Helix 13, her breath catching as the air turned electric. Old machinery groaned to life as she approached the core chamber. Dust swirled, stone cracked. And from the shadows, a single figure emerged, not human, not machine. Something in between. Its body shimmered with armor made of memory metal. Its voice, calm but layered, like many voices speaking at once. You are early, it said. June raised her weapon. Her fingers trembled. Who are you? The Guardian. Protocol 47 Alpha. I watched over the seed fleets. And now I wait for your order. I didn't authorize anything, she whispered. I don't even know why I'm here. The Guardian tilted its head. It wasn't threatening. It was studying her, like it was searching her soul. Your mind was marked. Years ago, during the conflict on Novar 9, you chose compassion over conquest. You chose to save rather than kill. That moment echoed forward. Your empathy was the final key. June staggered back. Memories came rushing. A battlefield soaked in fire, and the day she refused to bomb a colony of enemy children. This was because of that? The Guardian nodded. Humanity's power was never in force. It was in the choices no one understood, in kindness mistaken for weakness, in pain carried without bitterness. You were always meant to awaken us, not as conquerors, as protectors. June fell to her knees. What happens now? Now ... You remember. On a broadcast frequency once considered dead, a new signal began to pulse from Earth. Not a threat. Not a warning. A message. Simple. Soft. Human. We do not come to destroy, but we will not kneel again. Across the stars it spread, touching every outpost, every trade ship, every listening station. Even pirates turned off their raids to listen. Children on moon colonies stopped playing. Alien elders blinked in disbelief. No fleet moved. Not yet. They waited, because something about that message felt old, like a promise made long ago was finally being kept. In the underground cities of Vestaprime, an old historian named Rilta Hun watched the human signal with quiet tears. They were never silent, she whispered. Just patient, her granddaughter stared. What do you mean? Rilta placed a hand over her heart. We laughed at them. Called them soft, small, foolish, but I remember the stories. The old ones. The human who walked through plasma storms to save a stranger. The medic who shielded enemy wounded with her own body. They bled when others turned away. They broke, but never forgot how to mend. The girl leaned closer. Do you think they'll hurt us? Rilta looked back at the signal, still blinking like a heartbeat in the dark. No, she said. But they'll make sure we never hurt them again. Meanwhile, in orbit around Juno Station, 3 alien warships blocked the path of a human scout vessel, sleek, unarmed, bearing no weapons. Just one pilot aboard. The lead alien captain opened a channel. Identify yourself. This sector is closed. Calm voice replied. I'm just delivering the message. You have no escort. Don't need one. The alien sneered. Do you think we're afraid of one human ship? The human paused, then smiled. You're not afraid of this one. You're afraid of the others. Watching. A second later, every scanner in the region lit up. Invisible before, now revealed. A formation of 10 human ships surrounded the blockade. No noise, no lights. Just presence. The alien captain turned pale. They cloaked in broad daylight. Without signatures. The human pilot spoke again, quiet but firm. We gave you peace. You called it weakness. Now you'll learn what we were protecting. In the command center under Mount Shasta, Dr. Hale stood beside a new screen. One by one, the 7 awakened were coming online. June from the Sahara. An engineer from the Mariana Trench. A musician from the Andes. Each had made a choice in the past that echoed now. She touched the glass gently, heart full. This wasn't war, she whispered. This was memory. And above them all, the fleet waited. Not to conquer. To remind. The storm we plant at these stars looked different now. From the outer rings of the galactic trade routes, merchant ships slowed down to stare at the sudden web of human fleets. They weren't just over Earth anymore. They were everywhere, silent, watching, unmoving. And they hadn't fired a single shot, but that silence felt louder than war. At a border station near the edge of neutral space, Captain Lara of the Jelvan Guard stared at the human cruiser hovering in the distance. It hadn't sent a signal. It hadn't moved in days. But its presence was like gravity, pulling fear out of everyone nearby. Her first officer, younger and full of pride, hissed quietly. They're mocking us. They dare watch without speaking. Lara raised a hand. No, they're reminding us they can. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were locked on the cruiser. She could see its surface shifting like liquid metal, old tech but alive, pulsing with something she didn't understand. And then she felt it, deep down, like a whisper in her bones. Guilt. She didn't know why. But she felt it. Far beneath the Alaskan tundra. Alara Voss arrived at Station Zenith, a place that technically didn't exist. Her boots echoed on the steel floor as massive doors closed behind her. Red lights blinked low, and the air tasted of dust and old secrets. In front of her, Dr. Halle stood beside a wall of glowing panels. Others had gathered too, June from the Sahara and a quiet woman from the deep cities of India. Each of them had the same look in their eyes, not confusion, not panic. Recognition. Double quotes. We were never meant to be soldiers, Ilara said quietly. We're not, Halle replied. We're something else. The room darkened as a hollow image flickered to life. It showed a pattern across the stars, dots that pulsed like heartbeats. Fleets, all from Earth, all waiting. But then a shift. Lines started to connect between them, like a map forming from memory. And at the center of that map was a shape. Tree. The symbol of old Earth, not of war. Of life. June stepped closer. They think this is a military response. It's not, Halle said. Then what is it? Halle turned to them, eyes full of truth. It's a reckoning. Deep in the galactic core, the War Council of the Gelnek convened in secret. For centuries, they had ruled with fear. They had burned planets, erased languages, crushed uprisings with plasma and silence. Humans to them had always been amusing, soft, emotional. But now, the room was filled with tension. A message had arrived, not a threat. A memory. It showed a human child shielding an alien pet from gunfire. It showed a medic binding a soldier from another species. It showed tears, kindness, forgiveness in the face of cruelty. And then the fleets. Not rising in anger, rising in remembrance. Elder Kraft slammed a fist on the table. This is manipulation. High General Trell spoke calmly. This is truth. Silence followed, because deep down they all knew. Humanity hadn't grown stronger. It had simply stopped. Hiding what it had always been. On Earth, in the old city ruins of London, children played again for the first time in weeks. Above them, two cruisers floated silently. No one feared them. Not anymore. Grandmother Maeve sat on a broken bench, watching. Beside her, a young girl asked the question that was spreading across the stars. Why didn't we know? Maeve smiled softly. Because the truth was too quiet and we were too loud. Meanwhile, aboard a hidden listening station in the far rim, an alien technician decoded part of a human fleet transmission. He frowned. Double quote, sir. They're not broadcasting military orders. They're broadcasting music. His commander blinked. Music? Yes, old human songs. About stars, about hope, about sorrow. And as they listened, something strange happened. They felt it. Without understanding the words, they felt the ache, the love, the pain of a species that had lost so much, but still stood, still smiled, still offered open hands in a galaxy of closed fists. The commander looked up. They're not trying to dominate. The technician nodded. They're trying to teach. Back at Station Zenith, Alara sat alone in the quiet. Outside, the sky shimmered. With the glow of fleets waiting, she remembered her training. The drills. The fear of being forgotten in the great silence of space. But now. Earth wasn't silent anymore. And the stars were listening. She reached out and touched the glass. They called us weak because we were kind, she whispered, but they forgot. Kindness can be sharp too. And as the words left her mouth, the first ripple spread, a signal. Not loud. Just clear. We remember. We endured. We will not break. The galaxy would never see humans the same again, because this wasn't a show of power. It was a reminder of depth. And depth. was stronger than fear, the kind that remembers the day the Galactic Council summoned its emergency session. The stars flickered, not because of light, because of tension. Ships everywhere had slowed. Borders had gone quiet. Trade routes froze. Even pirates, warlords, and ancient hunters of the dead zones had gone still. Every eye turned toward Earth. But Earth didn't move. Not an inch. Inside the council dome of Zareth 9, delegates from over 90 species had gathered under the Great Ring of Unity. The room, carved from a single shard of moonglass, trembled as whispers echoed between races who had once ruled and those who had once begged. The High Speaker, a towering arachnid being with eyes like carved sapphire, tapped the council staff. Once, we convened today because of silence, she said, and because silence has become thunder. A few chuckled, nervously. Then she continued, humans have risen fleets without firing a shot, without asking permission, without explanation. Some of us call it a threat, some call it a message. But we must ask the question none dare speak aloud. She paused. Have we made a mistake? For a long moment, nothing stirred. Then, slowly, Ambassador Liran of the Freylari stood. His voice was thin, like wind through broken stone. I remember, he said. 200 years ago, I was dying in a mine on Tau 3, forgotten, broken. A human medic dragged me out. Lost his leg doing it. No one knew his name. He asked me for nothing. He looked around. How many of you have similar stories? One by one, delegates raised their hands. Some hesitated. Some cried. Some looked ashamed. We didn't just forget their strength, Liran said. We relied on it, and we buried it in stories of weakness. A silence fell, heavier than war. Back on Earth, Dr. Hale sat inside a forgotten vault beneath what once was Montana. A single artifact floated in the air before her. Not a weapon, but a seed. Inside that seed was a song, written thousands of years ago by human refugees drifting through frozen space. The melody didn't speak of conquest. It spoke of waiting, of hurting, of holding on when no one came. She had listened to it a dozen times. But this time, she wept. Because now she understood. The fleets had not risen to fight. They had risen to protect the truth that humans weren't powerful because they could destroy. They were powerful because they chose not to. At the same time, in the moons of Jean's Reach, a Gruther strike fleet made a mistake. They didn't believe. They didn't fear. And so they fired. Just one missile. A warning, they said. A test. But tests have answers, and this one was fast. Before the missile crossed halfway toward the observing human vessel, it vanished. Not exploded. Unmade. Space itself bent. Light cracked. And in its place stood a single human ship. A ship that hadn't been visible before. It bore no name, no lights. Only a surface covered in countless carvings. The carvings weren't war records. They were names. Millions of them. Children, artists, lost lovers, extinct animals, forgotten songs. The entire surface was a tribute. And the ship said only one thing. Don't mistake memory for mercy. The Gruther fled, not because of power, because of shame. Elsewhere, in a school on a small ring world, a young alien boy raised his hand. Teacher? He asked, why are humans doing this? The teacher, older, tired, but wise, nodded gently. Because for a long time, people like us taught others that humans were simple, soft, not made for the stars. But it turns out, they were made of something stronger than metal. What? The teacher smiled. Grief and love, and the courage to carry both. In the high command of the outer colonies, someone finally dared ask the question, what happens if they do decide to attack? The admiral didn't answer. Instead, she played the latest human message. We won't strike first. But if you come for the innocent, we will become the storm you buried. No one spoke after that. Above Earth, the fleets held their formation. They didn't advance. They didn't demand. They simply watched. Waiting. The galaxy called it a standoff. But the humans weren't standing off. They were standing up. For the old promises. For the buried dreams. For every moment of quiet strength that had been mistaken for surrender. ELAR stood in the observation deck of Station Zenith. Looking at the stars, she placed a hand on the glass and whispered, "We were never weak. We were wounded." Behind her, more ships blinked into view, not warships. Healers. Rescuers. Cultural ARKS. Because the human fleet wasn't a weapon. It was a reminder. And the galaxy was starting to listen. The day kindness stood taller than Worth's stars blinked nervously that day. In systems where empires had ruled without question, fleets now hesitated. Admirals paused before issuing commands. Even bounty hunters and outlaw kings sent out cautious feelers, wondering what would happen if they pushed too far, because the humans still hadn't moved, and that was the scariest part. They could. But they chose not to. In the inner ring of council space, a summit was held under emergency lights. Dozens of species attended, many of them centuries-old rivals, gathered now under a common truth. Humans had done something no one expected. They had changed the galaxy without firing. Ambassador Trellis of the Skernhive stepped forward, clicking his claws gently on the stone floor. "I've lived long enough to see 13 wars," he began, "and I'll die knowing only one people ever frightened me without raising a weapon." He turned to the star map projection, where Earth's fleets glowed quietly across the void. "They did not rise to attack," he continued. "They rose because we forgot what they were." Ambassador Venja of the Valari Council hissed quietly, "Then why won't they speak with us?" A soft voice replied from the side, "They already did." Every delegate turned. It was Elder Rilta. Hun, her frame thin, her hands shaking as she stepped forward. They sent songs, memories, kindness. They spoke in the only voice we never understood. She paused, tears filling her old eyes. They spoke like survivors. On the deck of a listening post orbiting the derelict moon Veras 4, Technician Yannick sat with headphones pressed to his ears. No one else had heard the signal yet. But he did. A simple message. Broadcast not to terrify, not to boast. Just a story. A human voice, quiet, old, and full of cracks, telling the tale of a village that saved an alien child during a famine. No rewards, no recognition. Just warmth given where it was needed. As Yannick listened, he felt something shift in his chest. Not fear, regret. Back on Earth, within the quiet of Station Zenith, the 7 awakened stood in silence around a long, glowing table. Each of them had unlocked ancient memories buried within themselves, passed down for generations, waiting for this exact moment. A moment not built for war, but for truth. Dr. Hollis stepped forward, her voice soft. "It's time." Elara Voss, hardened by years of service, simply nodded. "You think they'll believe us?" June Orland stepped up beside her. "They don't have to believe us. They just have to see us." With that, they activated the final sequence. Not a weapon. Transmission. Across the galaxy. Every screen, every device, every frequency was interrupted, and a message played. No threats. No demands. Just faces. Human faces from all walks of life. Young, old, wounded, joyful, struggling. They didn't speak in unison. They spoke in turns. One sentence at a time. "You called us soft. You called us weak. But you forgot how long we've walked in pain. You forgot we held the hands of our enemies when they died. You forgot we rebuilt after every fire. You forgot we fed strangers while our children starved. You forgot we buried our grief. And kept going. Then, finally, we don't want war, but we remember everything. We were never silent. You just never listened. In the outer colony of Greshva, a group of young soldiers watched the broadcast. One of them, a recruit named Sen, turned off his weapon calibration screen. He whispered, "I thought they were just dreamers." His captain shook his head. "They are. But they're the kind that survive the nightmare." For the first time in generations, planets across the galaxy called for new treaties. Not out of fear, out of shame. The galaxy had always believed power came from size, from fleets, from fire. But now, they saw something else. Humanity's single quotes S power came from restraint. From sorrow not used as a blade, but as a reason to heal. And as millions of ships held position, watching, waiting, the galaxy itself shifted, not because humans rose, but because they refused to fall. Back at Zenith, the last part of the message went live, a single line, spoken by a child. With a voice soft as starlight. "We don't need you to fear us. We just need you to see us." And with that, the fleets dimmed their lights, not gone. Just quieter, because Earth didn't need to roar. It only needed to exist. And that was enough to change everything. What rises in silent Seth's stars were calm now, not because peace had been signed, not because treaties had been written in gold, but because something far older had settled across the galaxy, a quiet understanding, the kind that doesn't need words, the kind that only comes when truth is too big to deny. In the chambers of the Galactic Council, the final vote was taken. New laws were passed, not to punish humans, not to limit them, but to acknowledge them. Humanity was no longer listed as low threat, culturally artistic, moderately influential. That label was gone. Now, the human species held a new title, Galactic Soul Bearers. Not because they ruled, because they endured. They had survived the collapse of oceans, the fires of their own wars, the loneliness of their own silence, and still found ways to offer music instead of missiles. And the galaxy finally understood what that meant. On a world where the sky was made of flame and glass, a boy who had never seen Earth carved something into the side of a stone. He had heard the story. He had listened to the messages. And now he believed. He etched one word in the ancient tongue of his people. It meant soft fire, phrase once used to mock humans. Now it meant hope. Back in Earth's orbit, the fleets began to descend, not in force. In return, they hadn't left Earth to conquer. They had risen to remind, and now that the galaxy had remembered, they could come home. Ship by ship, the great engines dimmed. Landing bays reopened. Their surfaces, carved with names, memories, stories, would be preserved not in museums, but in schools. They weren't weapons. They were witnesses. In station Zenith, Kalara Voss stood on the balcony overlooking the valley below. Green fields stretched far into the horizon. Ships touched down quietly, without ceremony. June stepped up beside her. "We didn't fire a single shot," she said. Ara nodded, and somehow that hit harder than any war. Behind them, Doctor. Halle walked slowly, carrying a small cube in her hand. "This has every message we broadcast," she said softly. "Every memory, every name. I want to bury it." "Bury it?" June asked. Halle smiled. "Not to hide it. To plant it." So they walked together to the hill, dug into the soil, and placed the memory cube beneath the earth. They didn't mark it with stone or flag. Just a tree. New tree. Because the story of the fleet didn't belong in towers or monuments. It belonged in roots. 10 years later, a child sat beneath that tree. His grandmother, old and gentle, pointed up at the sky. "See that star?" she asked. "Yes." "That's where the silence ended." "The silence?" She smiled. "The silence we all kept because we thought kindness wasn't enough. But then humans reminded us. Kindness is the loudest thing there is. The child nodded, eyes full of wonder. Did the humans win? She laughed gently. No, little one, they didn't win. Then what did they do? They healed. Elsewhere, deep in the void, an ancient species awakened from hibernation. They had missed the wars. Missed the rise of the great powers. Missed the story. They scanned the galaxy and asked a question. Who rules now? The stars answered in silence, but the answer was clear that no one rules, but the humans are remembered. And somewhere, in a small cabin on the edge of Alaska, Elara Voss lit a candle by the window. She didn't wear a uniform anymore. She didn't need one. She poured tea, opened a worn book, and read the last line aloud. They thought we were weak. They forgot what rises in silence. Then she closed the book and whispered to the stars, and we forgive them. Because that was the human. Way not to forget, but to remember, and still choose peace.